Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, eXp family and real estate industry friends. Welcome to eXp Realty's Level Up live stream. My name is Curtis Dixon. I'm the Senior Vice President of Agent Development, and it is an honor to spend this morning with you. If you're regular, welcome back. We're glad you're here. I hope your mindset, skill set, and tool set are leveling up all over the place. I'm sure they are if you've been attending regularly. If you're joining us for the first time or you're watching a replay, welcome. We're glad you're here. We go live 3 days a week. We call it Mastery Monday, Wealth Wednesday, and Fire Friday. We live stream on YouTube, and we come to you live in our eXp World Metaverse Auditorium. Every time I turn this way, I'm reaching out specifically to our eXp World agent audience that's here in our Metaverse. Glad to have you here. Good morning, Terry. So excited. If you're live on YouTube, please feel free to use the comments. We want to hear from you. We want to be able to engage and interact with you as we're going live. Most importantly, please make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel and turn on notifications. That way, the next time you're at a buyer's appointment or driving to a listing appointment or you're out on a busy Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you'll get that notification. You can turn this on anywhere or make sure you catch the replay, everybody. Again, welcome to Level Up. We are going to really have an amazing day in store for you over the next 90 minutes. I get a short 13 or 14 minutes to get you thinking, get you going in the right direction, get you engaged, get you ready. Then we flow right into our daily agent stand-up where you're going to get some accountability and some motivation and inspiration from a top producing agent. Then we're going to jump into really awesome subjects today around investment, creating wealth, and really recognizing the opportunity that exists right now in the real estate industry space. So welcome. I believe that's my guy, Jeff Ruby, out in Colorado, the modern agent entrepreneur. Good to see you, Ruby. Cassandra, thank you for being here. What's going on? Bill, want to welcome people in our Metaverse Auditorium. Angela, Becca, Bill's with us. Ever, glad to have you here. Heidi, Jana, Cassandra, Kelly, Lemuel, glad to have you. Paula, love all our regulars jumping into our Level Up live stream, everybody. So for the next 13 minutes, and I apologize, I forgot to load a little image that I was going to share with you all today. So I'm going to load that up here in the chat box. Should already have it rocking. We kicked off last Mastery Monday by sharing an image on the screen. We're going to keep unpacking this image. This is one of the images right now that's on my phone. It's saved in my favorites. I encourage you to take a picture, find it on social media, and do the same. It's just a little visual from Brendan Burchard. And a shout out to Brendan. I don't know him personally, but he's one of my favorite high performance coaches, authors, and speakers. I buy Brendan's planners. I read Brendan's books. I follow Brendan on social. I just love the performance aspect. And I think performance and Mastery Monday really goes hand in hand. So I want you to take a picture of this little image and save it on your cell phone. So you got a minute, bust out your cell phone, grab this image. I'm sure if you follow Brendan on social, you can find it. And I'm going to kind of walk you through it. I'm going to tell you where we are on this Mastery Monday. And then we're going to dive into one of these sections. So the beginning of any great performance, any great consistent win, any identity foundationally to you is a clear intention. So last Mastery Monday, we went over intention for about 13, 14 minutes, and we actually did an exercise, and I'll gift it to you shortly here in about 60 seconds. We literally wrote down the words, I intend to. So start with that, I intend to, and then we left a big blank. And in the blank, you write the question, what do I intend to do or be? What do I intend to do or be? So I intend to blank. And then the next blank, we wrote another blank. It was why you intend to be that person or do that thing. Why? Why does it matter what's in it for you? What's in it for your family? Even better, what's in it for the world? I intend to blank. The fill in the blank is what. And then next blank is why. Then the next blank, the more clearly you can get your intention stated, the more powerful it becomes. How? How do you intend to become or do that thing that's really important to you? How? And if you don't know all the how, that's okay. That means you're at the beginning. Perfect. How do you think you'll take the first step? The next question was when or by when? Do you intend to do something today? Do you intend to become something this month? Do you intend to have something this year? When? Just add some time to it. Makes it even more clear. And last but not least, and I'll measure progress this way. I'll measure progress this way. How will you know you're reaching your intention, Jeff? How do you know you're on your way, Lisa? Good morning. Thank you for being here. How do you know, Cassandra, that your intention is getting clearer and clearer and you're making progress? So last week was an exercise on intention. And if you read these circles, then after that clear intention, you typically start to exhibit some new behaviors. So today we're going to go a little bit into behavior design. It's going to tie us to next Monday Mastery, where we come back and talk about habits. Then it becomes a practice, then second nature, then it is simply who you are. So hold on to that identity North Star. You are the modern agent. You will be that life-changing real estate entrepreneur that impacts your community. You can have that life of balance with time freedom and financial freedom if you will get clear on your intentions and you will start to master some of your behaviors. So let's jump into mastery design. Hopefully you've taken your picture of this slide. If not, just search up Brendan. You'll find it. Let's drop the visual and let's talk about behaviors. Behavior design. So hopefully you've gotten some clarity around what your intention is. And so I want you to think about, identify one behavior that you'd like to make some progress on. And when I say behavior, think of literally a small task that you're already doing that you want to get better at. Think about an activity that you don't do regularly yet, that you want to become a habit or a daily practice. And do me a favor, name a behavior in the comments in YouTube or right here in the chat box in the metaverse. I'd like to have someone to reference by example. So be brave, be bold, share with me a behavior you'd like to design. And then I'm going to give you some guidance. I'm going to give you some motivation, inspiration, and a couple of key concepts that are going to help you design that behavior, all in the next 7 or 8 minutes before we get into our daily agent stand-up and take you through the rest of the amazing Mastery Monday brought to you by the eXp Realty Level Up team. All right. So Jonna wants to talk prospecting. I encourage you to even drill down and get a little bit more specific, get a little more clear in those intentions. What area of prospecting right now? Prospecting to whom? For whom? Your new client leads, your sphere of influence, Justin, I love it. Your past client database. What are we talking about here? Social media, I love it. Tracy, there is a lot of right now social media strategies sitting on the YouTube Level Up playlist. I know the last 3 or 4 weeks we have had social media rock stars sharing with you literally their strategies on how they're pivoting their social media content creation and approach right now to capitalize on this changing opportunity. So we got sphere of influence, making regular calls. Let's go with calls. Calls sound like a good one today. And there's never a bad time to make some phone calls and get into deeper relationship with people that are in your sphere of influence, people that are in your database, and maybe even some new folks. So we're going to use calls as an example, but we can talk about, you can make this apply, Cassandra, to time blocking, to consistency. You can make this apply, Jasmine, to social media content. Make this apply anywhere you're thinking, Lisa. So let's get into behavior design. And a concept you need to understand when it comes to behaviors, first off, it's simple to understand, but it's not easy to execute. So recognize that there's 2 games you're playing. One of my favorite books right now is called The Inner Game of Tennis. It's a mental performance book. It's not about tennis. The Inner Game of Tennis. It's a mental performance book. But that book, and we all know, reminds us that there's 2 games we play when it comes to our behaviors and our performance. There's the inner game, and then there's the outer game. And so many times when we talk about our calls, Justin, when we talk about our prospecting, we think we're playing the outer game. We think it's about the scripts. We think it's about the conversion percentages. We think it's about the tracking. We think it's about the prep. And while all of those things matter, usually where we're struggling, and tell me if this resonates with you, give me a heart or an emoji in the chat box if this is true. Usually we're struggling in the inner game. We're wondering why we know what to say on the calls, or we know we should be making them, but we're not. We're wondering why last week we made 100 phone calls and this week we made 0. Right? That's usually where we're stuck. We're wondering why sometimes we do a great job at setting the appointment and sometimes we don't. We're usually in the inner game, right, Cassandra? It's true, Angela. Okay, so I'm going to give you 3 little pieces that will help you on the inner game. Because on the outer game, you can Google search YouTube right now. You got great scripts. Follow my guy, Modern Agent Jeff Ruby. He's going to give you amazing outer game stuff, mechanics on calls. But I'll give you a little inner game. So when it comes to time and time blocking, sometimes we forget that our best performance is when our mind is quiet, still, and focused. Quiet, still, and focused. So let's take a real example of that. If you're trying to make your daily SOI calls, Justin, from the coffee shop, probably not your best time. If you're trying to make your daily calls while your kids are getting ready for school, probably not your best time. If you're trying to make your calls with music blasting in the background, probably not your best time. If you're trying to make your calls at different times every single day because your life is so dynamic that it's ever changing, but you're not still or focused, probably not your best time. If you haven't done a quick meditation, a quick exercise, if you're all jittered up on coffee, probably not your best time. So for that inner game, a reminder around time is select a time where you are quiet, still, and focused, and watch yourself crush. Maybe it's 30 minutes, but you can have 5 great phone calls. That's better than no minutes all week with no great phone calls, right? Maybe it's 2 hours every morning if you work from home when the house gets still and quiet. When your spouse goes to work and your kids are off at school, boom, that's your time. So reminder on the inner game, the right time is when your mind is quiet, still, and focused. I hope that's helpful. Great question, Colleen. Colleen's asking some awesome tactical questions. You know, for our team, our EXP University team, Live and World, if there's a recommendation to Colleen to grab some of the right tactics and training around what's going on, hit the Level Up playlist, Colleen, where we're talking about this stuff all the time. I'm not going to go in this short 10 minutes into too much detail around tactical, but I'm going to take you to the next component that's an obstacle in the inner game for us. It's not time, but it's place or our environment. I don't know if you know, but it makes such a difference where you are when you're making those phone calls, where you are in that time block. If your environment isn't giving you energy, it's taking energy away from you. And you're not going to excel or perform in that environment. If your environment is stale, static, you feel stuck, you're not going to perform in that environment. You're not going to make your daily calls. If you should be standing up, but you're sitting down, you're not going to crush it on those calls. If you should have a headset on, but you're holding your phone up to your head, you're not going to crush it. Your environment, what's going on around you, matters so much. So today, if you want to do something different, change environments. Tomorrow, rent out an office space, go to Regis, grab a co-working spot, set up your home office, set it up for phone calls if you want to make it. All right. And last but not least, a consideration in the inner game. And this one's big because you're ready to get into action, right? Colleen wants to go from texting and direct messaging to actual phone calls. So here it is, Colleen. I'm going to give you a little inner game nugget, okay? In order to really get yourself into a new action, you need a trigger. A trigger. Something that triggers that first action. So I've got some cards in front of me. So for Colleen, maybe it's just an affirmation, right? I'm going to pick up my phone right now. I'm not going to make a live call because I'm live here and I've only got 2 minutes here. But I'm going to pick up my phone. I'm going to read you an affirmation, Colleen, and write this one down. As I take on new challenges, I feel calm, confident, and powerful. I might repeat that affirmation, Colleen, down my first phone number and just talk. That's all it is. You just need some trigger that gets you there. When I was early in the game, we used to use this phone calling tool called Mojo. And there was this funny clip from this show that my wife and I had binged when our kids were young, when we stayed up late and couldn't sleep. And this guy did a dance and he said, I'm the Mojo Man. I'm the Mojo Man. He was dancing around saying, Mojo Man, Mojo Man. So before I made my Mojo calls, Colleen, I would throw on the Mojo Man video and I was the Mojo Man ready to make my calls. That was my trigger to get me into some action, right? So try affirmations as a trigger. What about this one? Every day I will become more confident on the phones because I'm making 10 phone calls right now. Ready? Go. Right? So that'll get you into some action, a little trigger. Sometimes you need a reward. So what about a reward for what happens when you make your phone calls? Set it up. What are you going to do at the end of 60 minutes if you've made 10 phone calls? Your favorite dessert, a trip around the block, take a minute, go outside, enjoy your backyard, whatever it is you're going to do. Try a reward or try an affirmation, everybody. Woo, this time goes fast. Today, we were talking a little bit about behavior design. Next week on Mastery Monday, the first 10, 12 minutes, we're going to get into habit loops. We're going to talk about how you actually program and create habits for yourself, everybody. Hope you are fired up, ready for Mastery Monday. Thank you for prioritizing Level Up. Again, make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on notifications. What you've got in store for the next 75 minutes is what we call our agent stand-up, daily accountability, daily motivation and inspiration, then 2 top eXp Realty agent producers here to help you level up your life and your business. Thank you all for getting ready for us. It is now a pleasure to bring on Alyssa Specht to take us into our agent stand-up. Alyssa, happy Monday. Great to see you. It's all yours.
Happy Monday. Thank you, Curtis. That was amazing. And I really liked that kind of warm up that you do for your calls. I think I might steal that. I really like that. So shout out to everybody out there. Welcome. My name is Alyssa Specht with eXp University, and I am pumped to welcome you to the Agent Stand Up. So if you have been here before, welcome back. Congratulations to you for making yourself and your business a priority. I hope that this session is giving you the accountability that you need. And if you are new here, maybe just joining us in world or on YouTube for the very first time, I want to, number one, welcome you. And number two, I want to give you a little bit of orientation. So this is the Agent Stand Up. And I want to welcome you here no matter what's your experience level. This is the place to come and get your mindset right. Kick off your day with momentum. This is the place for you to come and make a promise for your business. It is a place for you to speak your commitment out loud. So in our stand-up, we always start off by giving you 5 minutes of orientation, give you some different resources. We're always trying to check in with you. And then in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to ask of you to make those commitments to yourself for your business. And then, as always, in the last 5 minutes, we're going to leave you with 5 minutes of fire. We bring on an amazing icon agent, some kind of influencer, someone who's going to help you jumpstart your day, to jumpstart your week. So, guys, before we make our commitments to our business, I want to ask you some questions. Some questions that I want you to answer at a very minimum, honestly, to yourself. But I'm also going to invite you to participate and put those answers in the chat, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're watching in world. If you will be brave enough to share with others, you guys, this is a whole community right here. We can help each other. We can help elevate each other and elevate the industry. So that's why I ask you to try to be brave and put some of those answers in the chat, because you never know who is watching on YouTube with you right now that's got the resource that you need. So now the questions I want to talk about. Now, if you've been through our Fast Start series, you know that we walk you through what's called the 3190. So we walk you through a 3-year dream, a 1-year focus, and a 90-day plan. So that 3190, with that in mind, I want to get a little bit more granular right now and actually think about the last 90 days. So what's different than that 3190 exercise is that exercise, we're looking forward, right? We're future looking. But right now, I want to take a look into the past and see kind of what information can we pull from the past for ourselves, the kind of information that might help us maybe be more productive in the next 90 days. So I have 3 questions for you, and I want you to think about the last 90 days in your business, the last 90 days of your life, okay? Question number 1, what's working? What is working for you? You know, obviously, these are going to be the things that you want to keep doing, right? But maybe do a little bit more of. What is working for you? I mean, it could be anything from asking for referrals to creating content. Think about what you actually enjoy doing, right? Those activities where all of a sudden 2 hours is gone and you didn't even notice. You were in your flow. So what is working? Think about how you landed new clients. Think about what makes you happy that you own a real estate business. Okay, so that's question number 1. Get clear on what is working, all right? So my next question for you is, what's not working? What's not working? What frustrates you? What tasks do you find yourself maybe procrastinating on? What are you worrying about? And once you've identified these kind of energy-sucking activities, you can start to think about ways to either minimize them, eliminate, outsource. Oh, you know what I'll say? That of course that we're going to end up doing some things that we don't always just love doing, but simply saying it out loud could at least get our minds thinking about, thinking about it different. Maybe for you, it's as simple about, thinking about how can I rethink the process for this undesirable task? Or maybe how can you rethink your own mindset, how you think about the task, and maybe make it a little bit less undesirable just in your own mind. And my last question is, what's missing? What could you do to create that would increase your internal rate of return and your happiness? What are one or two things that you could help that would help you attain all, this big dream life, that life that you envisioned when you first started your real estate business? I mean, that could be something, personal, like, carving out quality time, or something, more business related, just like getting more brand recognition. So, you guys, I want you to think about those, what's working, what's not working, and what is missing. All right. So, guys, while you marinate on that, I want you to speak that commitment out loud. It is now time to do that. I want you to write it in the chat, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're in World. I want you to think about those questions that you just answered for yourself. What are those things that you want to change in your business? What could you start doing today that's going to help you push you towards that business that you imagine, that life that you imagine? What could you start thinking about, building on today? And put that in the chat right now. And folks, if you are out there and you see something, you see someone put something in the chat, you've got a resource, or connect with that person. Give them that resource, that idea in the chat, because right now I want this community. I want you to feel like you've got a community behind you, because you do. We're all here ready to support each other. So I would like to give you a few different prompts here. So what are the things that aren't working on your list? Maybe you are struggling with confidence a bit, right? What could help with that? Maybe for you, your commitment could be going to sit down and review some scripts. Whatever you thought about when I asked that question, what's missing, or, what's kind of hurting? What could you do today? What is the step that you could do today to make that something that's a little bit less painful for yourself? And put those in the chat, and I want you to actually join us come back on Wednesday and let us know if you fulfilled that action. All right, guys. So before we get to our fire, I do really want to remind you that we've got an amazing resource, and we're going to drop a link in the chat, because I want you to get really clear on what your future holds. So what we're going to do is, in the World, we're going to drop a chat for our beginner track website. And this was built for you in mind, guys. You're going to get access to level 1. And this is going to help you get acclimated to EXP, but also help you craft a very clear vision of what your business could be. So guys, if you haven't done it yet, I want you to click on the link that we'll put in the World and get registered. This is going to give you that exclusive access to the amazing beginner track. I've got a dog down here who's just wild about it. So click that, and we're going to be dropping level 2 very, very shortly. All right, so you've got your resources. I want you to keep those commitments coming in the chat. But right now, after you made that promise to yourself, we like to send you away with a little bit of fire, a little bit of motivation, so that you've got that fire in your belly to go and fulfill those promises. So it is my honor to bring on our next guest to give you 5 minutes of fire. Friends, please welcome Dustin Purtan.
Hello. Very excited to jump in here for this 5 minutes of fire with all of you. So my name's Dustin Purtan, Icon Agent here at EXP. And I want to start off with just kind of telling you where I came from and how your journey is going to be a little bit similar to that. There's always going to be roadblocks. We always say you got to start with the mindset. So once you can get that mindset going, at the end of this, I'm going to give you a game plan all within 5 minutes that you can start implementing right now in your real estate business. So with myself, years ago, it feels like now, about 10 years ago, I was going from job to job to job, just trying to find a job. I didn't go to college. I went for 1 semester, dropped out, couldn't even wrap my head around taking out a loan. They made it so easy, right? It was so easy for you to go on your dashboard and click accept $10,000 for education. It was so easy. And I thought about it over and over again. I was like, why don't they give me 10,000 for a business? Why don't they give me 10,000 to do this? And I never did hit that button. I never did. I decided to leave. And there was a lot of people giving me backlash about that. You know, you have to keep going to school. You have to complete this. I said, I had no idea what I wanted to do at that time. And here came the journey of the jobs. I've either left or been fired. Yes, been fired. I'm not afraid to say it, from 5 to 7 jobs. And I believe all of those things got me to where I'm at today. But if I didn't keep going, if I didn't keep pushing through all of that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And that's that momentum. Whatever business you're starting, that's that momentum that you got to just keep, you just got to keep giving, you know, you have to keep going with it. So I remember as I was going through these jobs, I was going through all these different jobs, something would come up. You know, I had a sales job where I would do, I would go back and have to do inventory once I hit a certain sales mark, you know, and I didn't want to go back and do inventory. I wanted to keep selling. Well, they said, if you're not going to go back and do inventory, you're going to have to leave. And I left that job. And about 2 or 3 jobs later, I finally just started reading some books about real estate. I started reading these books about real estate. And finally, I just started making some calls here, making some calls there, and stumbled upon my mentor. I called her and I said, hey, should I get a real estate license to buy a duplex that my wife and I was living in at the time? She said, you don't need a license to get your duplex to buy it, but if you get your license, you can help me. And I said, hey, I don't have anything else going. Let's try this out. So I got my license and I started helping her with real estate. And eventually, you know, the first 6 to 8 months, I was hungry, right? You want business, you're just fired up and you want some business. Well, nothing really happened for the 6 to 8 months. I think I had 3 deals. And those, I don't want to say were given to me, but they were my mentor's leads. You know, she gave me those leads, converted them. But then that momentum started kicking in. And that's where I want to leave you guys with a couple thoughts here about your business that you can implement today. So some people don't know, but 2% of sales are made on the first contact. And people will think to themselves, that's not a very good number. And if you've ever been in my icon class, we talk about this. But you have to realize that only 2% of sales are made on the first contact with that person. So to get your business, to get that momentum going, we always want to hit the phone. We want to hit our KV core. We want to hit all those different resources that we have, those tools. And we have to remind ourselves daily that only 2% of those are going to convert. I always like to think of Major League Baseball. If you told somebody in sports that they were going to fail 7 out of 10 times, but make $1 million, they would say there's no way. That's baseball players. If they have a 300 batting average, you know, people are trying to pay them millions and millions of dollars. So when you're first getting going in your real estate business, don't think about all the roadblocks in the way. Think about that 2%. Think about, I just need to make one more call. I just need to talk to one more person. And eventually, as time goes on, you've talked to, let's say, 600 people, you know, 100 people, 100 people, 100 people, 100. You've talked to so many people, it just starts flowing into your business. But if you don't talk to those people, that's what we call prospecting. If you don't talk to those people, if you're not prospecting, you'll never get a lead. You'll never get a sale. So just remind yourself, as a brand new agent or wherever you're at in your real estate business, you got to build that momentum. And it doesn't matter what happened yesterday, because if you don't start today, nothing will happen tomorrow. So hopefully that got you a little bit fired up, and you can realize that no matter what happened before, if you just start hitting those contacts, prospecting, your business will start building up and will start taking off.
Amazing. Thank you, Dustin. And I feel like that was the message actually that I know I needed. It was like one of those things, like I just had a transaction I was dealing with yesterday, and I'm like, oof, this is rough. It's hurting my heart a little bit, but then it's like, okay, all right, I got momentum right now. I'm going to keep going and get through that. So thank you for that message, which I needed, and I'm sure everybody else did. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, guys, take that fire, put that in your pocket, and go take some action. And we are wrapping up with today's stand up, but I do have some calls to action for you. Number one, if you are watching in world, we're going to throw a survey in the chat for you. If you would kindly fill that out, give us some feedback. We always want to make sure that we are giving you value. Number two, if you are watching here on YouTube, I want you to just hit that like button and turn on that notification bell and make sure that you are subscribed to eXp Realty's channel. And number three, I want you to stick around because we are not done yet. Next up in your Level Up programming is a very special presentation of short-term rentals for the long-term investor. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Michael Weisman. Take it away, Michael.
Thank you very much. Everything coming through okay? Audio good? Perfect. I'm really excited to be here with you guys to talk about short-term rentals for long-term investors. Something that's very near and dear to my heart. My wife and I run this side of our business together. So first, I'll start off with a little bit about myself, and then we're going to go into short-term rentals, right? And my goal here for you guys is to kind of understand why you might want to include short-term rentals into your long-term investment strategy for real estate, the risks and downsides of short-term rentals as compared to more traditional long-term rentals, and how you can get started even if you don't own property. We're going to cover that. And finally, a few case studies from our portfolio, which I think will help illuminate some of these ideas and hopefully spark some ideas. I'd love for everybody to be able to leave this presentation in the next half an hour kind of having a feel for how they can get started in this business and how they could incorporate it. So as my name is Mike Weisman. I'm a 2 times Icon agent here at eXp, just finishing out my second full year with eXp. Prior to this, I was 2 years licensed with another brokerage. And we have about 6 short-term rental properties that we run. And my wife, really, I give her the credit for it. My wife, Karen, manages those to a large degree as far as the day-to-day to get the turnovers. And we'll talk about a lot of specifics on that. And additionally, I've also, as an investor, completed a lot of different types of other investment strategies. We've done several flips. We've done some multi-family rental properties. We've owned and managed those, and also some new construction. We actually just closed on a couple of smaller ranches we've built. So I do have a kind of experience and depth of knowledge and fairly broad in real estate investing, but it comes back when I come back to short-term rentals. That has kind of been our long-term favorite. And I think you'll see why as we go through this presentation this morning over the next half an hour. So let's dive in here and talk about why short-term rentals. Now, before I go too far into it, I want to just make a point here. We're going to cover a lot of material. I'm trying to pack a lot in a half an hour. We're calling it almost a master class on short-term rentals. That being said, obviously in a half an hour, it's going to be impossible to teach you how to do this from start to finish, right? But I kind of think of these types of presentations as what used to be like the owner's manual when you got a new piece of software. I'm almost 60, so if you go back, and those of you old enough to remember when like Word 2 came out, or WordPerfect 2, before Office, before all the dummies books and those sort of things, you used to get a really big fat manual that came with your software. And it was really exciting. You'd open up the manual, you'd buy the extra books, and you didn't read it cover to cover. What we did was we looked through that manual mostly through the table of contents and the index, because I wanted to know what was possible. What were the capabilities that this piece of software, whether it was Word with new mail merge or new systems or all kinds of things tied to the internet that was coming into play, what were the capabilities of this new piece of software, and how can we make use of that when the time came about? So I think of these types of classes, kind of a whirlwind master class, if you will, to get your wheels turning, get you thinking about, gosh, I think I could do this. And here's the points I want to take away from it and things I need to learn more about. So think of it as like a table of contents or an index, if you will, to understanding short-term rentals. So the way that we, they're huge now. Great. I see Shanna's posting on it. Excellent there. Yeah, guys, if you want to post, I am seeing the comments come by on the YouTube channel. If you have questions, and throw them in there. I'm happy to kind of go back and forth if people have questions on it. So first, I'll let you give some background. Is we got into short-term rentals quite a while ago. I would say probably 5 or 6, 7 years ago. But the reason that we really like short-term rentals is we've always preferred, my wife and I always preferred when we went out to stay at, bed and breakfasts. This is before Airbnb was a thing. Like B&Bs is bed and breakfast, even though most of ours, in fact, none of ours serve any kind of food now. It's strictly just basically room, boarding for the night, short-term rentals. But we always enjoyed that more so than going to hotels. My wife was a major, Karen, she majored in hotel and food management at Boston University, where we met back in the early 80s. And the first time we actually got into hosting this actually wasn't even in the United States. We lived actually overseas for a while. We owned property in Israel, and we had a small farm over there. And we found that we could actually start hosting. Then it was Airbnb. It still is. I want to mention that too. I'm going to talk about the short-term rentals, STRs, for a lot in this presentation, but I often will interchange the word Airbnb as kind of synonymous, but there are other platforms. I'm not specifically pushing Airbnb. That's the majority of where we manage ours through. There's other platforms as well. So when I mention short-term rentals or Airbnb, just interchange those two. It'll make it easier. Understand. So we were living in Israel, and we had a little farm with goats and chickens. And what we found is that people like to come have this experience. And we actually purchased basically large tents. And we had 3 of these large tents, and they were about maybe 10 feet across, circular tents. They look kind of like the old style from like the, if you can picture the Confederate Army or something like that, like, Civil War kind of tents that the soldiers would be in that time frame. That's what they looked like. They were the old army tents style. And we set them up with a couple of twin beds, on the ground, for more or less, with mats. And it was called glamping with a G, not camping, but glamping, glamorous camping. And what we found is those would rent incredibly well. In fact, they would go on par with sometimes what a local hotel room would go for, which is not cheap when you're traveling overseas to Israel. And we were getting a lot of bookings, people from all over the world, both people locally that wanted the experience of kind of being on a farm with goats and chickens, and also experiencing, coming to the country and seeing it, kind of living in the countryside, if you will. So after that experience, we realized that Airbnb was a thing we'd incorporate in the future. We came back to the States around 2014, 2015 to live here full time. And I started buying investment properties. We came back to New England, where I am today. We came back to Massachusetts, and today I run my team of 10, 12 agents and about 100 sides of our business here, the brokerage, but we also manage these 6 Airbnb properties here in Maine. We came back in 2015 and began buying properties here in Maine in 2018. So we're going to look at some examples of my properties towards the bottom of this presentation as kind of case studies that'll illustrate a lot of the points I'm going to go through right now. Okay, so if you're all tracking with me, let's dive in and answer this first question: why short-term rentals should be part of my portfolio? And we're going to look at it essentially straight out. Short-term rentals, first of all, tend to generate a monthly gross rent of, on average, 3 times what you'd get on the same property, same unit in the long-term rental market. When I say long-term rental markets, let's think of a 12-month lease. Signing someone to a 12-month lease, we get about 3x, 3 times on average over the course of a 12-month season. Now, for us here in Maine, Maine is vacation land, we do have a fairly seasonal, but we do rent these all year, and their occupancy is pretty good all year. It runs some of them up to 100%. On the low end, might be 65, 70% occupancy all year. So they are rented winter, summer, spring, fall. Okay. What this translates to is in the summer seasons, like our Memorial to Labor Day, a little before, a little after that, we're getting 4 times to 5 times what I would get with a long-term traditional rental on a 12-month lease. Okay. So what this translates to for us as investors is significantly higher cash on cash returns, significantly higher cash flows. Okay. So I have a question: how do you handle toilets and water in glamping? That's a really good question. Appreciate that. I'm going to touch upon that in the case study. The short answer to that, Laura, is we handled it in that property. We actually had outdoor showers and toilets that happened to be part of that property, but we're doing one right now here where I'm living in Maine, and composting toilet with a storage tank for the water. So you can do this in so many different ways. You're going to hear about it when I get into the concepts of when I get into the the case studies. You'll hear me talk more about that, but there's almost always a way. But a composting toilet is one way to do it with the glamping sites. Okay, so we're generating, again, 2 to 3 times as much cash flow in the off season that we would get in a monthly rental or long-term rental, and 4 to 5 in the high season across. Okay, now what's also changed, and a lot of things changed for us this last year, right? We're coming out of this pandemic. The pandemic accelerated the demand and the marketplace for short-term rentals. There's no doubt about it that we saw a bump up in longer-term rentals, meaning people want to come for a month at a time or weeks at a time instead of just a few days at a time, because the pandemic accelerated. One thing that came out of it was remote workforce, right? We are here at EXP. We understand a virtual company. Now a lot of other companies understand virtual and having their workers work remotely. So we had a huge increase in our demand, and I think that is something that's going to continue forward. That keeps me very bullish and optimistic to be in this space, because it's no longer just people on vacation. Okay, we are getting people. We have a lot of traveling nurses, traveling healthcare professionals that are coming into the area. We recently just finished a long-term rental where a group of people installing fiber optics were coming into the area. Like a Google Fiber was being installed near one of our properties, and they had to place 2 or 3 of their workers, and we were able to rent to them as well. So it's no longer just vacationers. So don't think of it just as vacationers. And if we have time for all the case studies, I'll touch on that as well. Okay, so let's talk about now the property itself. One thing I like about short-term rentals, we appreciate it, is there's less wear and tear on the property. Okay, now that may sound counterintuitive for a second, because you think, what about, parties or things like that? That's all manageable. Okay, so renters, first of all, what's called the short-term renter, does not move into the property. They do not bring in their furniture. They do not bring in their belongings. They're coming in with a few suitcases. Even for a longer-term stay, what are they actually bringing, right? They're coming for a short-term stay. They're not moving in. Okay, they don't hang things on your walls. They're not going to poke holes in your walls and start messing with things like that, right? They're also, the property has fewer what I call live-in hours, right? They're spending generally less time in the house, okay? So yes, Shannon, that's a great question. We'll get to that. They're spending less time in the house. They're usually, if they're in a vacation area, they're up in the morning and they're out to work. They're out to work. They're out to tour, right? If they're remote workers, they generally just want a place with internet access. Really important, by the way, high-speed internet access. So the property is less lived-in hours. All this translates to what I find less maintenance and less CapEx. CapEx is capital expenditures. How much do you have to budget to actually take care of things that are going to fall apart? The properties are getting lived in less live-in hours, and therefore it's going to be less wear and tear on your property. Okay, short-term guests also come with very different expectations than a long-term renter. Okay, a tenant, long-term renter, okay, is looking for different things than a short-term guest is looking for. Short-term guests want a comfortable space. They want it functional for their stay. Okay, they're looking for more of a comfy bed, a couch, some local, amenities, coffee, things like that. We don't give much more than that as far as actual food or anything. There's just the basics. They need basic cooking and kitchen stuff. They don't need a gourmet kitchen. They're not going to be preparing a lot of meals there typically. And if I'm doing a flip or a rehab, and I have done several now specifically for Airbnb, flips and rehabs, you spend far less money to make a property short-term rental ready than you do to flip it out or put in a long-term tenant. Okay, because again, 80% of the furnishings that we use in our properties, maybe 80% more, are upcycled, as my wife calls it. My wife loves Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, flea markets. She upcycles everything. She's got like what's called a shabby chic kind of style. People dig it. It's a cool vibe. And that's how we furnish our places. So you have a much less demanding person. They're not buying the property and they're not moving into the property. So think about that. Far less tenant-related issues. Far less. There's no leases. There's no evictions. No deposits to track. Okay, last week I had to spend a couple hours in the morning at eviction court for one of the properties that we need to get someone out. It's unfortunate, but it has to be done. There's also, we're not dealing with fair housing laws, okay, because these are short-term rentals. So you're not obligated to rent to everybody that comes to you. You can look at their reviews and their ratings on the platform that you're working with, okay? And you can make a choice or decision whether this person's a good fit for you based upon peer reviews. This is a great thing to know, is that Airbnb in particular, we use it. The reviews are important. You have no reviews, we're not likely to approve you without getting a little more information about you. Okay, so you can avoid guests with no reviews, negative reviews, or let's call it sketchy profiles. If you see, people coming up and it sounds like they're going to be a party, you don't have to rent to them, but you can use your common sense on that. And then again, a lot of information we're going over. So if I'm going too fast, I apologize. I think it is recorded. You can circle back to it or circle back to me. Okay. So you control how much also of the year it's rented to you. You want to own a place in Florida where Shanna is and posting for me, or Laura here in Maine with me. You want to own a second home and you want to make some money on it and essentially pay for house hack it. So your vacation property is paid for and even cash flows and still available to you. Short-term rentals is an answer. Okay. You can control, you're not signing a lease with anybody. Okay. And you can, you also, this is another benefit. I have had several short-term rental guests that we've taken in and helped out that have become clients, and we've bought and sold property with them, some more than once. So there's some other positive to it. Okay, now let's dive into what we call the risks and the downsides. Right, there's always a risk and a downside to every investment. We want to look at that, but it's a far shorter section here, fortunately. Okay, so first of all, I think the largest risk that we're all going to have is what I call local regulatory risk. Some of you know who you are. The towns that come to mind, like Nashville, Tennessee comes to mind, here in Maine, Portland, Maine, Rockland, Maine. Certain towns have taken steps to limit, block, or license or otherwise regulate short-term rentals. The number of units that can be rented out. Some have regulations where you have to be, like in Tennessee. I had a client in Tennessee that wanted to do this. They weren't able to do it because they had to be an owner occupant, and they weren't there. They were living in Florida most of the year. So certain towns, communities have local regulatory risk. So you want to look at that, and you want to look at your look at the records of your town meeting, see if it's been discussed. Talk to the code enforcement officers, talk to the town planning board, see what their outlook is on it. That's a big factor, probably the biggest factor as far as I'm concerned about picking an area when I want to go into short-term rentals. Okay, and the way to mitigate that risk is be comfortable with the long-term rate. If you're not going to get 3, 4, 5 times the long-term rate, are you okay if it's got to become a rental property? Can you still cash flow, right? Use that as your rule, and you won't get in trouble. Okay, the second downside is you're in the hospitality business. Okay, let's face it, you're a host, and we are super hosts, right? We have over probably close to 500, mostly 5-star or 4.8, 4.9 reviews. We've hosted well over 1,000 guests at this point on multiple properties. I ran a 12-month report before coming on the call. This last year, already over 1,000 hosting nights have been put out across our properties. So you are in the hospitality business. Okay, so turnovers, people come in, people come out. Some of our properties you can book as short as 2 days. Some we keep more at 4 days. It's a larger property. You can change that as the years go on. You can make summer. I have a client that gets books for a week at a time. Okay, and it gets paid, weekly rates. They tend to be very, very good. It's in a very, very, very exclusive area. So you can control that. But turnovers. So you need labors and systems. Okay, the cleaning fee is added on top of the base rental fee. Needs to be on top of reservations. People are going to communicate with you. Where can I find this? Where can I find that? Do you send them check-in instructions? A lot of that can be automated, and Airbnb, the platform that we use, and VRBO is our secondary platform, does allow for automations. So you can send check-in instructions automatically, check-out instructions. You can have like guest books, things that they can turn to and get in, FAQs, things like that. So you can, just like we automate our real estate business in some ways with communication, you can automate this as well. But it does require, again, this hospitality, this nice touch. Be on top of the reservations, reviews, and requests. That's really important to your ratings on these platforms. Communicate with guests, and need to maintain a really high rating, as close to 5 stars possible. We find that 5 is never really possible, but that's okay. We come in like a 4.8, 4.9 in that range on all of our properties on average. Okay, the last point here of the risk when compared to long-term rentals is guests who do not follow rules or damage the property. Everybody's biggest fear. So all I can tell you is that right now, with having gone through here in our properties just in Maine, probably 850 to 900 rentals, individual guests. I can think of, I've had no significant damage to my property, and I can think of maybe 3 or 4 guests that stood out as kind of more just, we're just being a little bit irritating about something, or had expectations that wasn't fulfilled. But in general, all good experiences. Literally 3 or 4, what I would call not optimal or positive experiences, but nothing hardly negative, which is pretty cool. And that's because of the systems we're using. We're using the commercially available systems, Airbnb, VRBO, and we can read the reviews, and Airbnb lets us only rent to those that have gotten good reviews. Perfect. Okay, moving on. Types of short-term rentals. This is where you're going to get to the nuts and bolts of it. So we've played in all these different spaces: single-family homes, apartments, or condos. Clear, right? That's what we all work with, a lot of us in the day-to-day business. But also accessory dwelling units, right? ADUs, they called. Yurts, okay, tents, like my experience in Israel with the 3 army tents. Tiny houses, those sorts of things. I have one of those right now that I'm working on bringing online. Okay, it's kind of a rustic experience here in the woods of Maine. I have an old stone house behind me here that used to be a 12 by 12 square foot building. We're turning into a rustic camping site. A duplex, 1 or more units in a multifamily. House hacking is a pretty common term we talk about these days. Buy a duplex, rent half, live in half. How about rent out half as a Airbnb? And in a third of the rental time, make as much money as you would renting it full time, or make 3x on your time, on your investment, right? Pretty good. So, and then finally, individual rooms in a house with shared kitchens, utilities, and baths. We've done that as well. My son has done that. I'll talk about that as well. And then I have 2 business models here. This is where it gets interesting, right? And this is answering Shanna's question: how can you get involved in a rental property? Well, you can do this on property you own. And we own several of these, and we own, and of the 6 or 7 active now, we own 5 of them, and then we have 2 more we're bringing on now that we own. But we also manage 2, soon to be 3, for other people. Okay, and that's either done on what's called a master lease. We're paying a certain rent every month, and then whatever we clear above that is ours, essentially. And we've done that in the past, and it's done well. Our current model, the one we prefer, is a revenue share: 70% to the owner, 30% to us. Okay, and that includes a turnkey process. We manage reservations, we do cleanings, turnovers, but all the repair and maintenance goes back on the owners. Okay, and whether it's a master lease or the rev share, obviously it's laid out very clear. What this division of our business is separate from our real estate team. You have to have your contracts in place for that, but it's not complicated. Okay. Acreage on your property. Yeah, you can do events. We've done that as well. I see a question there. We've done weddings, where things are permitted or allowed uses. You can absolutely do all of this. We've had weddings, rehearsal dinners, things of that nature. We had one property right on the Kennebec River, 1,000 feet of river frontage, done some weddings, rehearsal dinners, family events, that sort of thing too. Yes, all that can add in and add to your model here. So we operate into both models, where we own the property, and also where we actually share rev shares with the owners. Okay, what's the advantage of this? Well, we operate all under one Airbnb account. Okay, we have one master account. So Karen and I, my wife, we are Airbnb superhosts. Any given time, you'll log in and say we have 5, 6, 7, 8 properties. When I add a new property on right now, okay, all of my reviews carry with me. It'll show this property has no reviews yet, but this other host has 500 reviews from other properties. They can click over. So we carry that goodwill, that good faith right across with us, right? So it's a huge, once you get rolling, you can keep it going, okay? And that is, bring me to the case studies right now, is that first one. Like, so let's say you have just some acreage and you want to do events, or you want to put a tent or a yurt with something with a composting toilet. And you can get permission from your local planning board to do something like that. Even Airstream trailers I've seen people do. You can start building up a reputation, just like a feedback score on eBay years back, right? You can build up your reputation and start becoming a super host. And now, as you bring other properties on, you can piggyback off of that. So our first one was these 3 glamping tents. That property had an outdoor shower and a bathroom, was already in place. So it was easy for us. But we could have had a composting toilet just as easily. And it had a fire pit, and we had some chickens and goats running around, and it had an olive grove and a lot of nature. So this is more of like some people coming for the experience. Okay. That's one of our case studies. I'm going to go kind of quick now because I have about 6 minutes left till the bottom of the hour, where we're going to switch to your next speaker. Our next case study is where I'm speaking to you from right now. This is actually the home that we live in. It's a 3,000 square foot house with about a 500 square foot, used to be a barn. When we bought the house, it had been a carriage house or a barn. Most recently, the previous owner had a home-based cooking business, like a kitchen. He was preparing food in there. We basically gutted it, turned it into a 1-bedroom, 1-bath unit, maybe 500 square feet. It's kind of like a lower level with a loft, very small bathroom, has to have a little pocket door. But that little house, more than covers the expenses to live here. That's house hacking complete, meaning we essentially, all of our carry costs, basic costs, are covered by that one unit, and it brings in 3 to 4 times what I would get if I rented it on a traditional lease, year over year, okay, with a 12-month lease. So that's a great example of a house hack, but not having even a whole house to hack, just having one small unit. Okay. Next case study I'm going to mention up is a property that we purchased just north of here. It's actually in Winslow. It's called the Winslow Guest House. That's a 2-family property, a duplex, side by side, about 2,500 square feet total. Just picture, 2 houses, we know what duplex looks like, but separated on about 2 acres in a residential neighborhood up in Winslow. Okay, my son moved into one side of it. The other side, when he got it, was a long-term rental. Okay, when that person left shortly after we bought it, we opened up the entire top floor of that house for his family, his wife and 2 kids. Okay, so now he has 3/4 of the house, the bottom floor, a 1-bedroom apartment. Okay, that he now uses as an Airbnb, and the same thing that I have right here more than covers his mortgage, his rent. Mortgage, his expenses, everything. In fact, that property, not to get too much in the weeds, we actually bought it using a subject to. We took over a mortgage, so we didn't have to pay cash so much to acquire that property. So that's a whole different conversation on investing and creative financing. But the important thing is that one little 1-bedroom apartment, okay, generates 3 to 4 times what he could make doing the whole side of the house, and what he was getting actually in actual numbers. So this is great, and he does a turnover himself. He and his wife manage that themselves, but it's on my master account. So my feedback immediately gave him business from that, right? Number 4 is we have a property. It's called the Big Blue Barn. It was she was going to sell the house. A potential seller decided she'd rather keep it, but she couldn't afford to hang on to it. And it was an older historic home and needed a fair amount of work. So we consulted with her. She was able to basically just get the roof fixed and get the house solid, and then do a very, very light cosmetic interior, paint, sand the floors. Still has an old kitchen. It's still very dated. Okay. And we have now entered into a 70-30. She's one of our 70-30 splits. But what's happening here is that she now is netting out 2.5 times clean what she would have grossed in renting the entire house. And we're pulling out the other one, about 4x the total rent. So we're making more than if I owned it, is my gross rent, than if I own that house to manage it. Now we have to turn it over, but that one's now rented right now for a month. Someone came in, 30 days, no turnovers, 30 days. She's thrilled. Okay. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about specific numbers. Laura, you can reach out to me after that. That's kind of just to keep this applicable to everybody. But if someone wants to reach out to me, and you can find me through EXP, no problem, or post in the chat, and I'll connect with you guys. I'm happy to discuss specific numbers, but for the purpose of this class, we're going to keep it very general. Okay. But put it this way, it was far less than if I was making it to a long-term rental or flipping it. So I can use recycled, but upcycled. I didn't need a brand new stove, a brand new fridge. I didn't need all these things, right? I have to just satisfy the needs of a short-term tenant. It's much easier. So that's called the Big Blue Barn. And she's doing amazing. If she had rented that on long-term, an old farmhouse, it needed a lot of things, a lot of wear and tear in that property. That property would be struggling. She'd be struggling with maintenance and upkeep and CapEx. But because it's short term and it doesn't have all those lived in hours, and it matters. Windows, doors, plumbing, everything is not being used as much. It's less wear and tear, especially for an older home. Okay. And then the last case study then will be basically pulling us off the stage here, is a single family home we have in New Jersey. This is one we no longer operate, but my son did it before he came up here to Maine. There was a house in New Jersey. This is not a vacation area. This is an area where there's a lot of high tech and pharma companies. He did single rooms, one room, a room with a shared thing, a shared kitchen and facility or bath. It was 1 or 2 bedrooms. They had extra. They would rent them out. They were bringing in more cash flow than if they had a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment. Okay, again, because the short-term rental market pays a premium, even for traveling, sometimes more for corporate and those types of clients. All right. So to wrap it up, so where can you start? So start where you are. Do you have some property? Do you have some space right now that you could start doing short-term rentals? Do you have? Could you house hack? Could you rent a portion of your house? Right? Could you create a division between a couple of rooms? Could you finish an old barn? Could you put a yurt down, an ADU? Could you make a glamping site if you have some acreage? Okay. Are you looking at investment properties now? If you're looking at a duplex or a triplex, my son just bought a triplex. 1 unit is going to be long-term, and then 2 units will be short-term. He's right near a university, right here near Colby College. Going to be great cash flow property for him, the combination. So if you have long-term rentals, how would those perform for you if you did 1 or 2 units? If you tripled your rent on it, how would that change your numbers? Look at that. Run the numbers on that. And, do your own turnovers in the beginning if you get into it, so you understand how long it takes, and document your turnover process so you can train other people to do it as well. So there you have it. That is a very fast overview of short-term rentals, how we got into it, and here we are back on. So wrapping up my 30 minutes. So how do we do?
Thank you so much, Michael. That was amazing. That was amazing. You can see the YouTube chat is like popping off, and I've got just a page full of notes myself. So that was amazing. Thank you so much for doing that.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Anytime.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we're not done yet. Next up in our Level Up programming, talking to you about why the market shift is your investment opportunity, I am excited to bring on our next guest, Jonathan Greene. What's up, Jonathan?
Hey there. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Take it away.
All right. Appreciate it. Thanks so much. Again, my name is Jonathan Greene. I run a big team called Streamline Properties on Market. Obviously, we're brokered by eXp Realty. I've been investing in real estate for more than 30 years. So I have a long background of looking at every type of investment property. And it's a great one to come after what Michael was just talking about in the short-term rentals. I'll touch on those a little. But generally, what I'm going to give you today is why this market shift is your investment opportunity as an agent. If you have a license, you should be looking at investment properties all the time. I'm going to tell you how to get into it, what to do with it, and then what to look for. We're going to go through access, knowledge, financing, and opportunities. If you do have questions, post them in the YouTube live chat. That's the one that I can see while I'm on there. So I will be responding to those. There's a little bit of a lag time. But again, my team has 39 agents on it right now. A lot of them are investors as well. I'm training my agents to be investors. And in 30 minutes, I'm going to try to train you in a very quick session to coach you up. Because if you have a real estate license and you're not investing in property, it's crazy. There are free opportunities, not free in money, free opportunities for you to first learn. I'm going to explain to you how to do it. One is your access. So why did you all get a real estate license? Again, you can chat some of this stuff in, but if you send some stuff in the YouTube live chat, I will respond. Why did you get your license? And somewhere down the line, were you thinking about investing? All real estate agents have the opportunity to find deals, work with investors. Today is about finding your own investments. So your license gives you the access. One of the things that I tell my brand new agents who are also interested in investing is you have access to every vacant property on the market. Why aren't you using it? I know all of the agents in my area and around. So if I'm always going to go to a vacant property, I'm obviously going to set it on showing time or whatever system your area uses. But if you're a brand new agent, you want to learn about investing, figure out repair costs, see what, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 in your market smells, looks, feels like, you have to go see properties. We tell it to our investors. We run a big investor portal and a podcast called Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. And what we tell them is you're not doing anything until you've looked at 25 or 50 homes. So if you're a real estate agent and you want to get what we call reps, so you can reach Malcolm Gladwell's tipping point as an agent or investor, you need the reps and you need to get into houses. And the best way to get into houses is you have a real estate license. So why aren't you looking every day at the hot sheets to see what vacant properties are coming up and what you can do to learn more about investing yourself? The only way you're going to get comfortable investing yourself is to go into a bunch of the worst properties and start to figure out over time how much it costs to do the rehab. That's obviously going to help you also grow your investor portal with other investors, which we encourage because investors are great repeat business, whereas your market clients aren't going to be as repeatable. So you're going to have vacant homes, and those are going to be agent previews that you can see as much as possible. You should be on it every day. That's going to also help you direct those properties to either yourself or other investors. As you get experienced as an investor and you have a license, a lot of your friends are going to want to invest. You're going to give them opportunities both on, and I'm going to talk a little bit about off-market opportunities and how you can start to get into that as well. So one of the biggest perks of having your license, if you're getting into flipping where you're going to figure out what you want to do, if you need to run rental comps for a landlord, is that data inside your MLS system. So your ARV, which is after repair value, is the most important thing. And if any of you are involved in express offers at EXP, you will find in the express offers forum, there's 10 videos from me in the pinned post there that I made for them. Express offers is your dialogue to buy boxes, which are iBuyers, institutional buyers. Institutional buyers and all investors and you yourself should always be looking at what the ARV is of a property. That's your after repair value. So you know when a foreclosure or some kind of dump comes on the market, you know what the out value is. Then you have to figure out what the renovation costs are. Renovation costs take a long time to learn. Knowing contractors and befriending them and going on sites of jobs is the best way to learn. That definitely takes time. It's why you have to go see properties. And then you always want to be using your same MLS access to see what the property is sold for. So when I was new and I saw a brand new property that I knew was a flippable property, I would put it into a spreadsheet and I'd track it until close. I wanted to see who bought it, if they bought for cash. I wouldn't know their rehab budget unless I knew them, but I want to see what it sells for, because that tells me where the scale is in there. I can try to figure out what the rehab cost is, but you want to start to investigate what I call dump properties are selling for, and then what your after repair value properties are selling for. And that's where you're going to use your MLS access. The best thing for investor friendly agents and agents who want to invest is that daily updates of new flippable properties or investor properties and the flips for the out value. Again, if you have questions, post them into the YouTube live chat. That's the one that I can see. So that's your access. Your license gives you access to all opportunities. We're presented with a market shift. Anything that you read out there in the real estate world is talking about a shift. I myself don't really worry about what the market's doing because I'm always investing 24/7, 365. Doesn't matter to me what the market does. It's how I adjust myself to the market, where I'm looking, how I'm looking, and what I think the deals look like. And when the deals aren't good, which generally they haven't been great for the last year at least, I'm not going to buy anything. But that means you're being a good investor by figuring out what the market opportunities are and then activating them. And there's no better way to have those opportunities than having your real estate license. Second section is all about knowledge. So I can explain this to you as an investor or as an agent, how you can be the top real estate agent knowledge-wise in your market in 30 days. It's pretty simple. Every morning, and you should do this if you're investing, you should do this if you're an agent. Every morning, wake up, look at your hot sheets, which is every single property that sold yesterday and every single property that is listed today, and all the back on markets. I do it about 3 or 4 times a day, and then I'll be sending those out. But that's the only way that you can know everything that's coming in and out. And the best way to get that confidence up as a new investor, new agent, or both together is to be running those daily market updates and make sure that you know every property that comes out. And then going back to number one, the access, you're going to go see all the vacant ones. If you don't have clients yet and you're a brand new agent, why aren't you looking at vacant properties? You can always be previewing them. Vacant properties aren't going to be ones where you're going to be upsetting the seller. If you let the agent know, hey, I'd like to preview, I have a potential client for this, and you're just getting in there doing market research, you could be the potential client. You're trying to learn about investment along the way, and vacant properties, you're not bothering anybody. So another real key perk to your daily market knowledge is you're going to see where all the flips are happening. So that's going to give you your ideas on where the next markets are coming. Once you see a new area start with flipping, if you're not driving for dollars or driving through the areas, you're going to start to understand the trajectory of what's actually happening in the market. So when you see 3 towns over, a town that you're not that familiar with, and you see new flips coming on, you're a little bit late to the game, but you're not too late. That's a perfect time to continue doing your market research right into that funnel and into that town to make sure that you're seeing every new thing. You want to catch those new markets, and those are opportunity areas for you as an investor. If the flipping is just starting in the area, that means you're going to be behind a little bit, but they're going to set the appraisal values ahead for you, and you want to see what they are. So you may wait till 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 close so you can see what the true out values are, and then you're going to go in and research that area as well. Because a lot of new investors, maybe you too, you're looking at a hot market, but if it's hot, you're too late to make the maximum amount of money. I like to make money in the side markets, which are 2 to 3 towns around those hot markets. So one of the most important things as an agent investor, which you're going to tell to all your clients as an agent, is show me the money. Do you have a pre-approval or a proof of funds to buy this property? So what's extremely important, understanding your own personal investment strategy, and when you're working with investors, and obviously even for your regular clients, is how are you going to pay for the property? Seems easy, right? I mean, it seems like a no-brainer. Everybody should know this, but it's not. And it's different when you're becoming an investor for yourself, especially in the market shift. You're going to see things that you didn't expect. Sellers are pricing too high. Decent properties are going to start to come down. Properties are going to sit on the market longer. Anytime I see properties sitting on the market longer, those are all opportunities. You know, if they're in great shape, those are opportunities for our buyers. If they're not in great shape, every day that goes by is another opportunity for me. And I know how to negotiate those properties. And you're getting leverage each day that goes by, especially when the market's going into a shift or a downturn. I wouldn't say it's a doom and gloom, but you're looking at what we used to have everything selling in a week. If you're looking at things at 3 months, they're going to be feeling the pain because they thought they were going to pay in a month. And for you, knowledge expert, market expert, you're going to be the one who's going to be able to hop onto that deal. So in terms of financing, I want to clear a couple things up that I think people make mistakes with on market, off market. The only thing that's a cash deal is cash. So you'll see a lot of times people saying, I'm offering cash, and they'll have hard money or private money. That's not cash. Hard money, private money, line of credit, all comes with a modified appraisal. The appraisals are different. Sure, they're based on your ARV, out value, things like that, but they come with an appraisal that can stop the deal. The only thing that cannot stop the deal is cash, because there's no appraisal for cash. So when I say I'm making a cash offer and I'm a cash buyer, I'm presenting my proof of funds on my phone on every off-market opportunity that I go to, which is a way you can beat out wholesalers in your area. They're not going to have a proof of funds because they're going to wholesale the contracts. So if you do have cash, you have extreme leverage in all markets. You just have to understand what properties you're going to target, which I'm going to talk about. So you have cash, which is your cash in a bank account. It's your money, not OPM, other people's money. You're going to have hard money, which right now for first-time flippers is going to be like 13% and up and 2 to 3 points. It's not looking good right now. I would not be a first-time flipper in this market right now. I would in maybe 3 to 6 months as the deals start to get better, at least where we are. And then there's what we call modified cash. That's hard money, private money, OPM, other people's money, line of credit based on asset-based line of credits with lower. Those are all opportunities. I would still be marking other on your contracts. And you need to be very clear about what your financing portal is when you're offering, because that's what gives you leverage. And that's where some people make mistakes, thinking that the only thing that's going to win is cash. Definitely not the case. So if you're not a cash investor, which is the majority, you don't have to feel like you're like not going to be involved in the investing world at all. You have plenty of options. One of the best options is renovation loans. If you want to be an investor, you don't have a ton to put down. The most typical one is your FHA 203K loan. The reason why a 203K loan is competitive in cash situations is because a lot of times those sellers know that they need the house to be renovated. It's not habitable, so nobody's going to move in. A conventional loan's not going to work. The 203K or any portal that's a renovation loan is going to give the seller the knowledge that you already know you're going to renovate, so you're not too worried about all of the little things that are coming the problems that are going to come up because you're doing a full renovation. You can do a streamlined renovation, which is less, or you can do a major renovation almost ground up with a 203K. But your cash adjacent opportunities with a mortgage is always going to be a renovation loan as opposed to a conventional loan, because a conventional loan, the house has to be habitable, and there's going to be other requirements, including on the live-in end of that. And same for FHA, comes with all sorts of requirements. 203K is going to be managed by the renovation. So when you're looking to invest, you want to go through, double check what your financing is. And again, the market is shifting. There's going to be more opportunities. Are you going to be ready for those opportunities when they come? You probably have lenders that you know. If you're not vetted and you don't have your own pre-approval or know what you can afford, that's something you should do literally today. Talk to your premier lender, get them to vet you. If you're a brand new agent, you don't have 2 years of tax returns and you're full-time agent, you want to figure out how to do the things that it's going to take so you can be an investor in the market. You want to always be looking. It's crazy if you're working for investors, getting them great properties all the time, and you're not getting any. You have the market expert status because you have the data and you have the access, and now you have to figure out what the financing is to get you there. So I want to back up a couple steps. Again, you can pop any questions into the YouTube live questions. I will see them in there. Here you go. These are investment opportunities explained. So if you're new to investing, or even if you're not, these are some of the opportunities that are out there. This is going to piggyback off what Michael was saying. He was talking deep about short-term rentals, which was awesome. These are some of your other opportunities. These are the portals that you're looking at, and these are the things that other investors are going to want you to look into. You're going to have your traditional buy and hold, which is just buying any type of property and hanging on to it, collecting the rent. People are going to be looking at a modified version of cash flow plus appreciation. And you want to check in with yourself and with any investors to decide which is the thing that you're looking for first. Is it cash flow or is it appreciation? As we're talking about the market shift, I personally am an appreciation investor. Cash flow is great, but I like appreciation because I like things that make money by me not having to do anything. And that's appreciation. Obviously, I make upgrades on properties, and if I'm flipping, that's a full turnover. But if I'm doing buy and holds, I want it to be in an area that's going to appreciate. And that's why going 3 directions out from each town, 2 towns out, is going to help you do that. So your buy and hold is your standard. Buy something, rent it out, become a landlord, learn how to become a landlord. Then you're going to have your BRRRR, which is 4 R's, B and then 4 R's. That generally is coined as buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. So you're going to buy a property, fix it up, rent it, and then you're going to refinance. And the reason why this strategy is so popular, especially around sites called like Bigger Pockets, where they coined the phrase for BRRRR, is because when you do that refinance and you've already done the rehab, increase the rent, when you go to refinance, you should be able to pull out your entire down payment if you do it right. So technically, you'll have no money in and you'll be getting a huge increase in cash flow. However, a lot of people in the last 2 years might have made a mistake on that if they're running into the time now. As the market shifts downward, that's a great time to get properties, but you have to be careful with the BRRRR strategy, because the refinance, if the market's still going down and you go to refinance, your value is not going to be as high as you thought, and you may have to do something else with it. The refinance is always based on the appreciation and the value add that you do to the property. So I coined something what I call reverse BRRRR, which is not switching the letters. It's actually just moving the first 2 letters. And this is a great strategy for a market downturn or a market shift. It's called reverse BRRRR because it's buy, rent, then rehab, refinance, repeat. The only thing that's the most important thing about the reverse BRRRR is that you need to leave the money in the property and let it marinate. That's the only way to actually do it, is just to leave it in there, let the money sit, because what you're going to do is you're going to buy a property that's occupied but that has decent rents, and you're just going to leave it with the renters. You're not going to have to do any rehab or repair. The renters are fine with it. You're just going to get cash flow. You're hoping that over time the renters take decent care of the property, and then you're eventually, when those tenants move out, that's when you're going to do the rehab. So if you get 2 good tenants in a multifamily to stay for 2-3 years, you should be banking appreciation if you were smart on your buy. So then you're not only going to have the appreciation at the end, you're also going to be able to do the rehab and then immediately refinance at a much, much higher value than if you did your traditional BRRRR. So that's reverse BRRRR. Then there is what we would all call fix and flip, or what everybody likes to do if they're watching HGTV, flipping houses. We just put another one under contract to flip. Well, we're not under contract yet, but we're hoping to be shortly. Flipping is a great way to do well and increase your cash flow for more investments, but it's very dangerous. And it's especially dangerous in a market shift. So you have to know that if you're buying in a downturn of a market shift, that your ARV may not be as high as you think. So you have to be very, very careful that you're not buying too high and then selling out low. That's how you make no money. That's how you lose money. So if you're a brand new flipper, now is a very tough time. The deals are going to slowly get better in this shift for you, for your opportunistic agent investors, but you have to know that what you think the after repair value is, if it keeps going down, you're going to have to account for that and make sure that your repair costs are set up correctly. Then we have something that is for really a lot of new modern buyers, we've got 10 minutes here, are looking to this. I call it fix and live. So fix and live is people who, they're okay doing a little bit of rehab. They're going to buy a house that's maybe not in perfect shape. They're going to fix it up, stay where they are until it's fixed up, and then they're going to move into the flipped house. They have the opportunity to then refinance then as well, or they can wait it out a couple of years and refinance and take out the big money later, or they can use it for a HELOC as well. So you have buy and hold, BRRRR, reverse BRRRR, fix and flip, fix and live. These are all opportunities for you. You have your house hack, which Michael talked about before me. That is normally a multi-family property that you're going to buy, live in one unit, rent the other ones, cash flow out on the other units. So your best bet for a house hack, if you're just a single person or it's just two people, is you're going to go to an uneven multi, which means it's not an even setup in both of the sides. You have not just 2 beds and 1 bath and 2 beds and 1 bath. You're looking for one that's uneven, or a 2+1, which is 2 units and then a basement unit that you can use as the owner, because that's how you cash flow higher on an uneven house hack. You live in a 1-bedroom and rent a 4-bedroom, you're going to make a lot more money. Then you have what Michael talked about in detail, your short-term rental or Airbnb, one of the hottest markets around for anything. I heard Michael talk about travel nurses as well. That's your mid-term renter. They're fantastic. Short-term rentals are fantastic because you can use them at different times and then you can pull them away. I had multiple short-term rentals in the Hamptons, and we would rent them for the summer. Obviously, you do amazing in the summer. And then over the winter, we would just rent them out for 6 months at a time, collect steady cash flow. So each property has multiple ways of making money, and you don't have to commit to only one strategy. If you're in a seasonal area, you can definitely short-term rental during the summer months and then long-term rental over the winter. You do have an issue with your tenancies if they refuse to go, but you're trying to figure out how to best manage the properties. And then there's some other options. Mixed use is your residential commercial option, which I think is the hottest one that's out there right now. So if you don't know what mixed use is, go on your MLS, search commercial, and look for properties that have residential units and retail units. So retail units are obviously going to give you longer term rental opportunities, more steady, whereas your residential units, you could do a hybrid use, which again was talked about before. If you have a mixed use and you have 2 retail units, 2 residential, you're going to have 2 retail tenants that are going to be paying and probably have on 3 to 5 year leases. Upstairs, if you're in a walkable area or somewhere downtown, you could Airbnb 1 unit, long-term rent the other. So you're hedging your bets on your cash flow on all of the units together. That gives you great opportunities to do whatever you want and then switch it around as you go. Then you have your apartment building investing, which is going to be 5 units and up. That is going to be, you're going to be looking at cap rate for that. So again, if you're looking at 5 units and up, you need to get familiar with what the cap rate is on properties and understand the difference. You don't use a cap rate for 4 units and under because those are going to be comped by regular residential comparable sales. That's just how it works. A cap rate is accessible for 5 units and up because you're looking at the income and the gross and the expenses on that. For 4 units and up, you can still do the calculation, but an appraiser is going to use comparable sales of 1, 2, 3, 4 family properties on that. Thank you, Tish. I appreciate it. There is a little bit of a lag. I haven't seen many questions, but if you send any in before the end, I will try to get to them. So you've got buy and hold, BRRRR, reverse BRRRR, fix and flip, fix and live, house hack, short-term rental, Airbnb, mixed use, apartments, and then you have these two that everyone talks about and are scared of. It's self-storage and mobile home parks. They're great investments, but you have to learn how to be an expert in them to understand. Why is self-storage a great investment? Even if you're a residential agent and a residential potential investor, you should learn a little bit about self-storage. Why? There's no tenants. The tenants is just a bunch of boxes. And there's like only one bathroom usually in a self-storage. So you have very limited water and you have no tenants annoying you all the time. So if they don't pay the rent, all you do is change the code and they can't get in, which you can't do as a landlord. So self-storage gives you a whole different type of scale. And if you're someone like me who's an introvert who doesn't really want to deal with people all the time, being a landlord is tough. So when you buy in self-storage, usually with partners, you have a little bit more management control because it's easier if you upgrade the facilities. So if you are looking to buy self-storage as an investor, especially in this market shift when some mom and pop self-storage might just be tired of it, it's not going well, people aren't going to be paying for storage if the market's going down, you're going to look for mom and pop opportunities, just a one-off like Bob's self-storage in your town. Those are going to be where all the good deals at. Mobile home parks, very complicated management style. You have to, again, become an expert at it to understand. Once you do, that's going to give you the opportunities you need. So I know I went fast, but that's what it is. It's Mastery Monday. You want a whole bunch of information as fast as possible. These are some ways to get in touch with me. If you're looking to invest or you want to learn more about investing, a lot of our content has that, especially for agents who are looking to invest. If you go on Instagram, you'll find me at Trust Greene, that has an E at the end. On YouTube, you'll find me at Jonathan Greene with an E at the end, R-E. We have stuff out there for agents. Hi, Julie. We have stuff out there for agents, investors, buyers, sellers, everything. If you go on TikTok, you'll find all of our renovation tours. Every time I go look at a dumpy property with my project manager and best friend, Jenny, we are doing those on TikTok. So you can actually see me walking through homes on TikTok. And if you're an agent investor and you want to showcase what you're doing, you need to be recording it. I literally record everything I do. You'll see it on Instagram. You'll see it on TikTok because that's what people want to see. And that's how people start to understand that you're in the trenches as an agent investor. You're looking at stuff. You're buying stuff. Investors want to work with other investors who have a license and know how to help them. Those are really, really important things. Again, I do have a podcast that's out now, Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. And then you can find our website for the team. We have 39 agents. We're in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, New York, and Nevada right now. Streamlined with a D.properties. That is the website. And then if you want to email me, you're going to have to email my team success manager, Crystal, and she'll get it through the wickets to me. It's info@streamlinedwithad.properties. So wrapping it up, because I have 3 minutes, why the market shift is your investment opportunity? Because you have a real estate license. You have access to the best data in the game. It's better than Zillow. It's better than Redfin. Sure, they're tied into the MLS, but it's not always the same. It's not accurate. You want to figure out how you can maximize your market knowledge and your access to properties and take that knowledge and turn yourself into an investor. The only way that you're going to be able to turn yourself into an investor is if you're going to see all the vacant properties. If you're a brand new agent, brand new investor, get into the vacant properties, make friends with the people who are listing them. If you see it's an LLC, you're going to come into contact with them eventually later on. See a couple questions, but my time is wrapping up. I know there's a delay. Appreciate EXP having me on. This is it. Why the market shift is your investment opportunity. Again, my name is Jonathan Greene. I'm the team leader of Streamline Properties on Market, brokered by eXp Realty, and happy to be on eXp Realty's YouTube Live. Thanks.